So servant leadership to an underperformer, I think this is where some people start to get a little bit misaligned. So I'd just like to hear your thoughts on what that would mean. Underperformance, either behaviorally or even if they're up for it 100%, but just competence wise, the craft isn't there, even if they're trying their socks off.
Yeah.
But what does servant leadership mean to somebody that is not where they need to be for whatever reason?
Yeah, so for me, it is not about being soft. The kind of like the when I think about underperforming, particularly in respect to behaviour, because if the behaviours are right and their attitudes right, we can train for skill and we can get the performance right. Poor behaviours, I'm pretty much intolerant of poor behaviours and people that do not fit. So I remove poor behaviour before poor performance. For me, it's all around it's all around culture. It's around harmony. If you've got, if we've got bad apples in good barrels and all of that, I think it's for the good of the greater good of the team, that we remove people from the organisation. So yeah, it's me kind of, oh well, identify good people, let them crack on and get in the way. Anybody that knows me as well, I do like a good graph and a good scorecard, and it's all about the metrics and it's push, push, push. So it's about actual performance. But yeah, I've kind of the my take on people with bad behaviours, it's kind of like a rot that can set in. And, you don't want people to be thinking, how bad do you have to be around here to get fired, kind of thing. Because there's no greater destroyer of morale and team harmony than putting up with poor performance or poor behaviour. And that's my take on it.
So for you, there's a real clarity around servant leadership is actually to be of service,
Yes,
may very well mean that we're going to have the hard conversation.
agreed. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And that for me is when somebody will say to me sometimes, when I think they're misinterpreting psychological safety, for example, is when we get that, and I had it not so long ago, and it does keep rearing its head. People should never feel under threat. Now, I'm interested in that because actually, my position on this, and this be interesting for where we sit with this, I go, well, nobody should ever be threatened, but they might feel under threat
yeah,
because if they are underperforming and we do have them on some sort of, be it just me looking at them going, really, all the way through to it's a performance improvement plan, whatever that is, actually, there has to be a timeline on that. And if you sense there is one, and I'm willing to coach you and train you and nurture you and all the fantastic things, but if it's all there and you're not getting there, you aren't being, inverted commas, threatened, but you might feel under threat. And if
yes,
you say to me, well, you're threatening me, no, absolutely not. But I
yeah,
understand how you feel like that. Does that
yes, exactly.
resonate? Does that resonate
It
or
does
not with you?
indeed. Yeah, it does. It does indeed. And when you talk about psychological safety, I often tell people that one of my biggest strengths, my own personal recognized strength, and of course I have to work on it, is I always tell people I'm really, really, really good at getting bad news. Really, really good at getting bad news. I do not shoot the messenger. I talk about bad news being like freshly baked bread. It is better when it's new. It does not, bad news does not get better with age. It is not wine. So, in terms of creating an environment for psychological safety, and I often tell the story, in the 1990s, I worked in the rail industry, and the CEO at that time, we had a balanced scorecard where we'd have like red, amber, green lights against various different performance metrics. And he used to say, red blobs costs jobs. In other words, if you get a red light on your scorecard, someone's going to get fired. So everyone was just fiddling the numbers, just actually fiddling the scorecard. And my take on that is, and I love a balanced scorecard, is that if we're looking at kind of red lights on the scorecard, I'm very, very, very tolerant if we're poor, we're underwater, but it is trending upwards, because at least then we can get some encouragement from, you know what, if we carry on improving at this rate, in 8 months' time, that's going to be a green light. So, but yeah, so I creating that environment where, um, yeah, of all of my time in construction, there's always something going wrong. There's always bad news, and I don't want to be the last to hear about it. So I go to great lengths to create an environment where people say, I need to pick up the phone to Steve. This has happened. Tell Steve immediately. And then, of course, it's that, the definition of responsibility, your ability to choose your own response. And it's that after they've just told you that something's collapsed or fallen down or something like that, you've got to take a big, deep breath and you've got to respond in the right way to make sure that next time there's some bad news, you're gonna get the bad news.
Hi there, my name's Guy Bloom. Hope you enjoyed the clip. Like, share, subscribe. And if you'd like to check me out some more and maybe even consider working with us when it comes to coaching and teams and culture, then visit livingbrave.com.